As to my personal background with punk, I grew up partly in Washington, D.C., in the United States, which at the time in the 1980s had a very active and also activist and very politicized punk movement. I was personally more involved in other forms of music when I was a kid, but I always appreciated and admired the punk scene for its belief system and its philosophical attributes. So I was always inspired by that, and it always seemed like a very respectable quality to that subculture.
We demand remove the state of emergency, release all detainees and all political prisoners, I think it is. Troops out of the townships, that was the issues then.
Why I got involved in this film directly is that it grew organically out of other projects that I was doing in South Africa. The previous film that I made with more or less the same team was about protest theater in South Africa during the 1970s and 80s, and its legacy in terms of the politics of today. And that film was reasonably successful in Europe, enough that it opened a window of opportunity for us to do something. But it was very effective and very well received in South Africa. And so it created the possibility to do something similar, working with similar themes, with protest culture, but on a bigger scale and something that would have a more international impact.
It was the kind of post-punk period. It was an amazing club. It was the first club to really play serious dub. It was the heart of our culture. I mean, came here every Wednesday, Friday and Saturday, you know, without fail. It was like every... It was all happening in the streets here in the parking lot too.
At the same time, I was then working in a film festival of music documentaries in Prague, which was called Music on Film, Film on Music, which was in fact the first such festival in Europe of its kind. And one thing that stood out for me in terms of what we showed at that festival were that the really mainstream and really obvious topics were not the ones that found the strongest connection with a local Central European audience, but the ones that dealt in a very local way and a very specific way with local music scenes were always fascinating. The cinema was always full for that.
Mense probeer kry wat musiek uit 'n ander oogpunt benader. Neil Goethals was 'n baie goeie musikant. Christo Bosse was hy kon allerlei instrumente speel.
And even more obscure forms of music or strange subcultures, when viewed from that framework of punk in the DDR or protest music in the former Yugoslavia, were more successful. And I realized that these local stories are actually very globally significant. So I think punk in Africa grew organically out of a lot of other projects I was involved in.